Hi, it's Mary Lou from Scrappy Crafters, and I'm going to be showing you today the We Are Memory Keepers mini alphabet punchboard. They have a large version which I didn't get because I really didn't think I'd be making too many banners or large projects that would require such big letters. But they just came out with this small version, and I really like the size of the letters. They can be easily used on scrapbook pages or cards, which is mostly what I make. So I've already made a few letters, and what inspired me to do the video was the mistakes I made. So the A turned out pretty well, and one of the features of this punchboard is that you can make these, I don't know what you call them, but shapes in the letters. I don't know how often I'd actually be doing that because I really like the plain letters, but I like that it had that option. So the A turned out pretty much okay. The B, you can notice that on one opening the straight edge is on this side, and on the other one the straight edge is on the other side. So obviously I made that wrong. Here is the corrected version of it. So let's start with that, and let me show you what made it go wrong for me. So you get this book, and each page has a letter. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it so well on here, but there's a diagram for each step. So on the B, the first thing you do, and where I went wrong, was you put, let me show you. With the package, you get 2 blocks of these small papers to start. So you take a piece of paper and imagine that this is plain, and there are scored lines here, number 1 and number 2. So most of the ones I've done so far line up with number 1, and you punch. But on the B, you can see how this is dark. This next one is a lighter color. What that indicated, and there's a little arrow right there. It's hard to see because the point actually goes into the paper. But what that's indicating is after you punch the first one that you've put in like this, and you punch it, then you take it out and flip it to the other side, and that's how you have both of the straight edges where they belong. So that was the mistake I made with the B. And then I made actually 2 mistakes with the C. This one, you can see the shape looks like a wrench, not a C. And then this one looks more like a G. So let's look at the C page. By the way, I did get it right. The third time was the charm. So we'll look at the C page and see where I went wrong. Again, this is a little difficult to see, but after you do whatever punches you're going to do on this, you then lift this and put your punched paper in here. And there, generally, you're going to put it in so the paper is right against this guide here, and there are two little guides there. So you put that in and press this down. And then you have this cutter. So let me find the C. So when you get to where you have it in this cutter, there's a red line right there. Wherever you see those red lines, that's where you cut. Well, especially on the first one, this one, I obviously didn't cut in the right place. There are more places to cut than I realized, so messed that one up. And then on this one, again, I still wasn't reading the signs quite clearly. There, you have to, on the C, the first cut how about if we just make one? Let me take this out and make the cuts. So the first one, you put the paper in, line it up with the number 2 score line, and punch down. It's fairly easy to punch. Then, well, okay, I've already done it wrong. See how easy that is to do it wrong? I didn't look at the directions. So let's get another piece. And for the C, instead of cutting down like this, this is the guide. You can see clearly, I didn't look at what I was doing, it goes sideways, not straight up and down. And we're going to look again. On this one, you can see the arrow there, but you see that this paper is still the same dark color. That means you don't turn it over, you just move it around. Okay, so here we go. We're going to put this in as it shows right here. Punch down, and then just turn it around. And you can check that by seeing here that you've got your straight edge closest to the punch, not away from it. And sure enough, that's what I have. Okay, so make sure you line it up with your guides and punch. Alright, now we come to where we put it under here, and I'll show you that we're going to have it two ways. We're going to have it sideways first and then up and down. So I've placed it in here next to the guide on the side and the two guides there, and push this down. Oh. So it's showing that it wants us to cut see where that red line is? It's right in here. So we'll put that in and make that cut. Okay, then we're going to lift it up. And the next one is this way. So we're going to put that in here, straight up and down, with now let me take a look at this. Okay, I don't think you're going to be able to see this, but well, actually maybe you can. Right here, it looks like there's a white line. That shows that's where you're going to put what you've already cut. And then you're going to cut that away. So that's how you end up with that shape there. So let's do that. Okay, another thing I want to point out to you, there are several places on this grid here that you can cut. We're going to be cutting above here. You see, that's where that red line is. And then the next one is right here. So it's these two places that you're going to cut, or that I'm going to cut. So we'll start out with that one, and then I'm trying to make sure that I cut correctly, because it's actually supposed to cut in here. Okay. Alright, so now when I pick it up, that whole inside piece is gone. Okay. So now we go to the fun part, which is making the curves. So actually all edges are going to be cut. Let me try that again. I did cut, but didn't cut all the way through. Okay, there we go. And if you're wondering where that's coming out, it just falls right down. So now we have a pretty good looking C. But you can see that it's easy enough to make mistakes. The D, by the time I made the D, I was being more careful, but as you can see, I actually, when I cut in here, I went a little bit too far. The E, well, let me move that so you can see. The E also I was careful, no mistakes. The F, the only mistake I made on the F, this is textured paper, so you can see on there how, and all the letters that I've cut so far until I got to the F, I had the textured side up. When I cut the F, I had it turned the wrong way, so it's smooth instead of textured. Then we come to that G, where I made not one but two mistakes, a wrench mistake, and it would have been a G, except it doesn't have a thing that goes in. But perseverance, I have a G. I think it's, I'm kind of thinking it's actually not quite right, so we're going to do the G again and see if we can improve on that. Yeah, you can see that the G in the diagram comes down. Mine does not. I cut that off too far. Okay, so let's start fresh. And I can't use that because so, what it's showing for the G, put the paper in, textured side up, sideways. Okay. Next step, textured side up, but moved down. So all we do, took it out like that, spin it around like that. Okay, so now we have this shape. And our next step is to place it. I'm showing you these things because if you, it's easy to miss a step or to just not really be paying close attention to where the cuts are. So the reason I say that, there are some letters that instead of sitting against this edge guide get moved up to one of these other score lines. But so far all the ones that I've made at least start out here. You might move them up to make some other cut, but it starts out down there. So this one wants me to cut wow, can't get that adjusted, but you can see that bright red line there. Okay, so here we go. Cut number one. Now see, I went a little bit too far and ended up cutting into this just a little bit. Okay, so now this is the next direction is showing us that we need to keep this in the same place, not move it, but raise it up to the 1/4 inch mark. So I'm going to do that. And then this cut is on the inside of Okay. So, you see what we have now? So we're going to it's showing us to, sorry about that, turn it so it's in this direction and place it vertically all the way down. And then we're going to look for our next, so where are we going to cut that? Okay, I think I've got it so you can see that it gets cut right. Okay, got that. So now that's going to stay in the same place, but come up again a 1/4 of an inch, and then it will be cut there. Okay, so I'm going to just slide it up, or not, that holds it pretty firm. Slide it up. To the 1/4 inch mark. See, this is it's a little more difficult to keep it steady while you close. Okay. So now, let me check it one more time. Okay, so I'm just taking off a little sliver past where I have just cut it. Okay, so we now have a G. All we have to do is round out the corner. So you can see I missed a little bit here. So that's easy enough to resolve with just a little snip. There we go. Okay. So now it shows again rounding all of the corners except that one. Okay, at last, a perfect G to go with our A, B, C, D, E, F. So I hope you, I won't say enjoyed that, it might have been kind of painful to watch, but I really like this. I like making the letters. I like the shapes of the letters, and like I said, I like having the option of being able to make those points in the letters, make them somewhat, you know, more interesting if you need to. But I just did want to point out that you do have to pay close attention to which way to turn your paper and where exactly to cut. And a little practice makes perfect. Thanks for watching. Bye.